All right, looks like we are live. Welcome, everyone. Happy Monday. We're back. All right, so I see some folks already in the room here. Welcome, Balder, Mark, Steve, and Colleen, all the way from South Africa. And let's get this other page open so I can see the comments there as well. And Mathis, welcome as well. Andrew, glad you're here. And I see a bunch of folks coming in on the Twitterverse as well. Charles, Bev, thanks for being here, Victoria. And let's go ahead and dive in and talk about today's quick topic. Raymond says, awesome background. Raymond, you can blame that on Victoria Pavlov. She's my Photoshop artist that created this background. So I take no credit for it. She gave me permission to use it. So Jaquil Photos, welcome from Florida as well. And let's go ahead and dive in. So let's talk about what we're going to do today. So we're going to create a neon effect. And I thought about this technique and I thought about this effect. And I start researching ways to do it. Start even looking at other tutorials. And what I came up with was that the other tutorials I saw worked great, don't get me wrong, and they were by great people teaching them, but they took a bunch of steps, like more steps than I was even comfortably trying to share here. So I tried to figure out an easier way to do it. So that's why this is not only how to create a neon text effect, but how to do it easily. Because we like easy. We like fewer steps to get the same thing whenever possible. So let me dive into what I came up with. So this is my own technique, not one that I saw earlier. And I'll show you what I'm going to do. So let's go ahead and switch over to the computer. Maybe, maybe not. Switch over to the computer. There we go. On the computer, I've got Photoshop running. As a matter of fact, let me switch over to the other side. There we go. That way I'm out of the way. And now that I got Photoshop up and running, we're going to do this from scratch. So first thing you're going to want is you're going to want something, neon is typically on something dark. You normally see it on a brick wall, you normally see it on a sign, but you normally see it on something dark so that the neon shines through. So I just did a search on Adobe Stock for dark brick wall. And I found this one. It was one of the first ones came up, and I licensed it immediately. I said, perfect. That will work out perfectly for what I want. Okay, so now that I got my dark wall in place, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create text, and this could be whatever font you want. And I would recommend for a neon effect, it could be whatever font you want, whatever you like, whatever your taste is. But I think it looks better, my personal opinion, in a sans serif thinner font. Just my opinion. You can use whatever your heart's content with. So I'm going to go ahead and just click. And I'm going to type the word neon in all lowercase. Now, here's a quick tip. When you just want to make it bigger, if you hold down your command key on the Mac or your control key on Windows, you can just grab the corner and just scale it out instantly and just make it as big as you want it to be. Now, that's not the font that I want. That's an Adobe internal font. I'm going to use something that you guys can use. So I'm going to limit my fonts to just the ones on Typekit. And I'm going to limit the class to sans serif, so that way we can all use any of these. And I forgot which one I wanted to play with earlier, but I'm sure I can find another one. Fire Sans would work. Let's see, I usually use Proxima Nova for a lot of stuff. That would work. And again, Ephra would work. I use that one all the time. That would work too. And some of these even have a thinner look than the regular look that I'm seeing here. Let's just stick to what I use regularly, which is Ephra. And Ephra has a light and a light italic. So if I do the light version, that's even thinner. Okay, so find your font, type your word, do whatever you want. Now, the color is irrelevant because we're going to change it anyway. So I default it to white, something we can see, which is easier than having it be black on the black wall. All right, so just make it so that you can see it. Again, you're going to change the color anyway. Now, we're going to duplicate it so that we have two copies. One, because we're going to do two different effects to combine together to make our neon. So I'm just going to duplicate it. And That will give me neon copy. And I'm going to go ahead and turn off neon copy temporarily and just switch to neon. So we're going to bring that one back in just a minute. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a style, and this is where it got easier. So when I saw techniques on how to do this, they all started with using the Emboss Effect. So if we go to our styles, if we go to our Bevel and Emboss. If we go to Bevel and Emboss, that will bring up a dialog box, and you can start playing and you can start getting your effect. But you'd have to do it all manually, and that was the part that was just taking too long. So instead, I was reminded that Photoshop has built-in styles. As a matter of fact, there's a whole panel dedicated to it called Styles. And if you've ever played around with these, you probably, looked at a couple and they didn't do what you wanted and you forgot they exist. But, and none of the ones here will do what I want. So if you just experiment with these, you're probably going to be left wanting more and they're not going to give you what you want. So instead, many of the things in Photoshop, styles, shapes, all kinds of things, have more. They're just not loaded by default. So, and by the way, if you don't see your styles panel, just go up to your window menu, come down to styles. That'll launch it or bring it up if you don't already have it open. So go to the flyout menu for the styles panel in the upper right corner, and you'll see a bunch more libraries. There's abstract styles, button, dotted styles, DP, and you can load them all. You don't have to limit yourself to one or two. I'm going to limit myself to just the one additional one I want that's going to have everything in it we need for our neon effect. And believe it or not, it's not buttons, it's not glass buttons, it's not text effects or text effects 2. It's actually in web styles. Took me forever to find it, but web styles has what I want in it. So go to web styles and it's going to ask you, do you want to replace the current styles you have with these or append? And we always want to append because that way we get to keep those styles that were there by default and we can just get to add these new ones onto it. So I'm just going to add these on and it'll just give me a bunch more styles. Now there are 2 styles in here that I want to make up my effect. So we're going to build them separately. That's why we duplicated the text. So the first one, because I want it in blue, you can pick whatever color you like. But the first one we're going to use is called Blue Gel with Drop Shadow. So if you were to sort them by name, you could find it as Blue Shell with Drop Shadow. And that's the one we're going to use first. Now when I click on it, it's going to be pretty close to what we want right off the bat. But it's not quite neon-y enough. So let's click on it, and there it is. And that's kind of cool. That's kind of getting there. It's not quite what I want, but it's pretty darn close. All right, now, that's why we created a second copy. So we're going to open up the second copy, just turn it on, and then we're going to click on that second copy, the neon copy, actually. And the second one we're going to apply is going to be called, what is this one? Blue Paperclip of all things. And we're going to click on Blue Paperclip. And now you can start to see where we're going with this. That's starting to look like our neon. Now, I might change my mind. I might go with a thicker font, but this is pretty close to neon. If we were to zoom in on this, that's pretty darn close to what I want right off the bat. But let me show you what you would get with, let's say, instead of going with the thinnest version, let's see what we get with regular. Now, if I change it to regular, I got to change both layers. So I've got this one selected. So let's go to our type menu. And once we're in the type menu, we're just going to change it from light to regular. And now you can start to see where I'm going with this. And you may not even have to change the bottom one, but we're going to change it anyway. We're going to change the bottom one. We're going to change that one back to regular as well. I just want it to be a little thicker so we can see this effect. All right, so now, 2 things I don't like about it. I don't like the center parts of the letters, so that needs to change because they're too white, they're too bright. It's not even that they're too bright, they're too white. They're not the right color for this neon effect. So to get to that, and it took me a minute to figure out which one it was, it's actually color overlay because I was double clicking on each one trying to find where's all this white coming from. And it wasn't that it was white, it was just a very, very light blue. So we're on the bottom layer. which has the color overlay. We're going to double click on it. That'll bring up the dialog box for it. And that's what's causing that white. So if we were to change this color, we could change it to something darker. So we get that kind of that's the way it would look on that brick wall. Or if you want that exact, maybe that lighter shade of brick where the white's on the brick, just while this color picker is up, just move your cursor into the brick wall area and you can actually sample the exact color that you want. So if you wanted the darker brick, you can get the darker brick. If you want the lighter brick, you can get the lighter brick, and that will give you the background you want for that. Okay, so that kind of solves that, hey, the inside of the letters would not be that bright. And you can make them totally black if you wanted to, but they wouldn't be that bright. That will take us to our next thing. The next thing is, depending on your font, the stroke of the neon may be too thin, too thick, may not be to your taste. So we're going to fix that next. So we're going to scroll up in our layers panel to the top layer, because the top layer, and each one of these has different effects. So this is the effect of just the bottom layer. This is the effect of just the top layer. This is why you kind of need them both. The top layer has stroke, and we're going to double click on stroke to make it what we want. So this is controlling the thickness of our neon shape around the characters. So if you wanted them thicker, you can make them thicker. You wanted them thinner, you can make them thinner to almost where they don't exist. So this is just tweaking it to taste to get more of that neon look to it. And that might be a little too round. I might want to back off that just a little bit. That would be kind of where I want to be, right there. All right, so next question. We're pretty much done, but the next question is, well, did I really need 2 layers? Like, could I have done this all on one layer? Could I have done the bevel, stroke, emboss, bevel, emboss, stroke, inner shadow, drop shadow, bevel, emboss, inner stroke? Yes, you can. Because many of these can be, like in the layer styles panel now, many of these you can add another one. So we could add another inner shadow. We could add another color overlay. We can add another whatever. So you can have multiples to have one styled one way and one styled the other way. The problem with doing one layer for everything is that you wouldn't necessarily have like you can't duplicate everything here. You can't have 2 inner glows. You can't have 2 satins or Satan, depending on which way you pronounce it. No, just kidding. 2 satins. You can't have 2 color overlays. You can't have 2 outer glows. You can have 2 drop shadows, but you can't have 2 bevel and embosses. So you're gonna kind of need to have 2 layers so that you get the exact effect. And plus, having the 2 layers means they're just literally one click away for each effect, and then you just tweak to your heart's content. All right, the next thing is, well, okay, so since we did this to a text layer, that means this is live text. So we can change it, but keep in mind, you got to change both layers. So if I double click on the bottom layer, the T in the layers panel, that will highlight it, and I can type in, for example, the word Photoshop, or you know what, that's going to be too long. Let's just do Terry. All right, I can type that one in. But then I got to change the other one too. So double click on the other one and let's change that one to Terry as well. And then we typed in neon. So we get our neon effect. All right. So depending on what you are trying to achieve, you can get everything you need with a couple of layers. You can try and get it all together with one layer, and you can absolutely do it with one layer, but it's going to be harder when you do it with one layer. All right, so with that said, I want to thank everyone for coming in to this quick tutorial on how to get a neon effect with 2 clicks, basically 2 styles, and then we just tweak them to our heart's content. All right, and this will also work on not just text. This will work on shapes or any layer that you create, especially vectors. All right, with that said, I want to thank everyone for coming in. Cheers, everybody. Thanks for watching, and we will catch you on the next one. Bye, everybody.